Imagine for a moment you're suddenly in the middle of the darkest night of your life. The kind of dark where you can't even see your right hand right in front of your face. You aren't sure how you got there. You didn't choose it, you were just put there. And yet, it's all you know. From before you could walk, before you could talk, before you were even born, before you had any say in the matter at all, and you are exhausted. We're not talking the tiredness that comes from a long day at the office, the exhaustion that comes from labor that never ends, the beatings if you step out of line, the emotional and physical drain of watching your family and your friends die, an exhaustion that comes from a weight that never seems to lift, from a night that just feels endless, and not just for you, but your parents and their parents before them. A night so long that no one can remember the previous daylight. Terrifying. Suddenly, you can hear singing. Not loud, not triumphant, but persistent. Coming from somewhere nearby in the dark. And slowly you recognize it because you've heard that song before, because you've sung that song before, because in the midst of everything that has been taken from you, this song is still yours. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Something happens when you hear it. Not because anything has changed. The field is still dark. The weight is still pushing down on you. The night is still endless. But the singing reminds you of something the darkness has been trying to make you forget. That you aren't alone. That there are others who are awake. That someone is still watching. That the lamp is still burning. So Jesus begins with a story for us today. 10 bridesmaids, a wedding, a bridegroom who is coming, and a night that is no longer what they expected. The bridesmaids are given the job of watching out for this man and alerting others when he's finally coming. Lamps trimmed, oil full, waiting at the door. Simple enough, right? Only it's never simple enough, is it? Because of course this bridegroom is late. No one knows why he's late, doesn't say. We just know that he is. And day turns into dusk, and dusk turns into night, and night gets longer and longer. And so the 10 bridesmaids fall asleep. Now it's easy to miss in this story, because we often think it's only the foolish ones who fall asleep. But no, all 10 are passed out by the door. Wise and foolish alike. They just cannot keep their eyes open a moment longer. And suddenly word gets out. The bridegroom is coming. And so they all wake up and they reach for their lamps, but 5 realize their oil's gone. See, all 10 were prepared for the arrival, but only 5 prepared for a delay. The line between the wise and the foolish and in life is razor thin. Because we prefer clearly defined lines. This group is good, this group is bad. These are the wise, these are the fools. This half is the righteous, this half are the doomed. But this parable makes it clear to us today, not only is that line blurred, it's impossible for anyone to know who is who other than Christ. And so this parable, it keeps pressing in on us. Because if we're honest, most of us are not prepared for the delay either. We come to faith with enough oil for the bridegroom that we expect or that we want. The one who arrives on time, within the limits of what we planned. But we aren't always prepared for the night that goes on longer than we thought we could bear, the healing that doesn't come when we pray it would, the resolution that keeps not arriving, the morning we were promised that feels further away than when we first lit our lamps. And slowly, not all at once, not dramatically, slowly, our oil begins to run low. The question this parable is pressing on us, the question we probably don't really want to answer, is do we have enough oil to wait another day? Because children, don't get weary till your work is done. I think most of us knew the first few spirituals this summer, but I don't know about this one. Right? How many of you knew this song coming into today? Children, don't get weary till your work is done. See, it's not saying, children, you should never feel weary. It's not saying, children, weariness is a sign of weak faith. No, the spiritual for us this morning, it's assuming that weariness is our reality. It walks right into the middle of our weariness and says, I know night has been long. I know how heavy your lamp feels. I know you've been watching and you've been waiting longer than you thought you would or could. But still, don't get weary. You see, the people first singing this song weren't singing from a place of comfort. They were singing from inside the longest, darkest night imaginable. A night that had gone on for generations. A night that had stolen everything. Freedom, family, dignity, name, everything. And they had every earthly reason to let that lamp go out on them, to stop watching, to stop believing the bridegroom would ever come for them. I'd even say it would have been fair for them to wonder why they'd even want this bridegroom. And yet they kept singing, children, don't get weary till your work is done. Certainly wasn't mourning for them. The suffering hadn't stopped, but they made a decision, a fierce, costly, defiant decision that the darkness would never have the final say in their lives, that the work was not yet done and the bridegroom was coming for them. It may be dark, it may be the darkest night of their lives, but there is still work waiting. Waiting for Christ is not something to be done in the comfort of a sanctuary or a living room. The lamps don't tend themselves. While the bridegroom is delayed, there are people to care for, neighbors to love, justice to pursue, and lamps to trim. The wise bridesmaids were not just sitting and waiting to be rescued. They were prepared for the long haul, because they knew the work continued even in the midnight hour, and so does ours. So children, don't get weary till your work is done. Christian journey soon be over. Can you imagine, just for a moment, how much it took to believe that soon if you were one of the first singers of this song? The journey had been so long, the night so dark. For them, soon was not a prediction, it was an act of faith. It was looking at the darkness in their lives, the darkness that showed no sign of ending. And yet they still declare, this is not permanent, the bridegroom is coming, and when he does, everything we know will change forever. That is faith. And it's exactly where we find Paul writing to the Thessalonians. The night is far gone, the day is near. Paul's writing to a church community that's tired. A community that has been waiting longer than anyone thought they would have to for Christ to return. Waiting for justice, waiting for the dawn that they were all promised. Now, Paul does not tell them that waiting will be easy. He's not going to pretend that night isn't dark. But he does remind them of something essential, something that the darkness tries to make them forget. You are children of the light. Children of the light of Christ. What can darkness do to them? Even when the light around them is nothing but a small flickering lamp that they have tended through the darkest night of their lives, they still have the light of Christ within them. And so do each and every one of you here today. After reminding the Thessalonians and us that Christ's light is never extinguished, he tells them something else that can change how we wait even today in our dark moments. We don't wait alone or isolated. We wait together. And while we wait, we are called to encourage one another and build each other up each day, because this is not a solitary vigil. The wise bridesmaids were wise together. They came prepared together. They waited together and they woke together. The slaves in the field sang songs together, their voices combining in the dark, each one keeping the other's flame alive when even their own flame threatened to be extinguished. Because Christian journey soon be over. We may not know the day or the hour, but we know the one who is coming, and we don't have to wait alone. So right now, for all of us here in this sanctuary, on this summer morning, we must keep our lamps trimmed and burning. I was struck this week by something Martin Luther wrote about the church. He said that a community characterized by the cross is a community that knows suffering. Not a community that has escaped suffering, not one that has found a shortcut around the suffering, a community that knows it and is not ashamed to say so. Think about that. We live in a world that rewards the appearance of having our stuff together. We post the highlight reel. We say fine before anyone finishes even asking. We carry our midnight hours privately because we don't want to be a burden, or worse, because we're afraid of what people might think if they know how low our oil actually is. But that's not the church, says Luther. The church is not a sanctuary for the people who have life figured out. It's a community for people who are still in the dark, who are still exhausted and are uncertain and are sometimes just barely holding on, and who show up anyway, who bring whatever oil they have left and trust that together we will have enough. That kind of community doesn't keep suffering private. It shares it. We don't just share the joys. We share the real suffering, the raw pain, the disappointment you haven't told anyone else yet, the diagnosis that keeps getting worse, the doubt that has been quietly growing for years, the faith that once felt like a bonfire, but now just feels like a single candle you are desperately cupping with your hands against the wind. A community characterized by the cross says, bring it here, all of it. We're not going to judge you for how much oil you have left. We're going to sit with you in the dark and keep singing until the morning comes. All right, think about someone you know. We all know someone who has been in their own midnight hour for longer than anyone should have to endure, who has sat in the dark long enough that most people around them have quietly stopped asking how they got there, who has every reason to let the lamp go out once and for all. And yet every week, here they are, lamps still burning, not because the morning came, not because anything changed, but because somewhere along the way, they made the same decision those singers first made, that the darkness would never have the final word in their lives. That is a community characterized by the cross. Not people who have it all figured out, but people who keep showing up with whatever oil they have left and find that somehow together it is enough. Children, don't get weary till your work is done. Go back to that field for a moment. The darkest night imaginable. the weight that never lifts, the exhaustion that goes bone deep and doesn't let go. And in the middle of it, you hear singing, persistent, defiant, a lamp that will not be extinguished. Those singers did not know when the morning was coming. They had no secret information, no divine timeline, no guarantee that they personally would even live to see the dawn. But they sang anyway. They trimmed their lamps anyway. They passed the song on to their children, who passed it to their children, who passed it all the way down to us. Sitting in this sanctuary today on a summer morning, lamps still burning. We have inherited something extraordinary. Not just a song, but a lamp. Lit by people who had every reason to let it go out, but refused. Carried through generations of darkness by hands that were exhausted and hearts that were broken and voices that sang out anyway, keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh until it reached us. And now it's ours. Those bridesmaids who were ready didn't have any more information than the foolish ones. They brought enough oil for the long haul. They prepared not for the bridegroom they expected, but for the possibility that this night would be longer than anyone had planned. And when the midnight cry finally came, when the moment arrived after the endless wait, they were there, lamps burning and ready. That's all we're asked to do. Not to have it all figured out, not to never fall asleep in the waiting. All 10 of them fell asleep. We just have to tend the lamp, to bring enough oil, to keep singing in the dark until the dawn breaks. Because here is what the singers in the field knew, what the wise bridesmaids knew, what Paul knew when he wrote to the exhausted community in Thessalonica. The night is far gone, the day is near. Not because the darkness has lifted yet, but because the one who is coming is faithful, because the promises are true, because the lamp that has burned through generations of midnight hours will not go out now. So stay awake. Trim your lamp. Do the work that is still to be done in the dark, and when the night feels longest, listen closely, because somewhere nearby you can still hear the singing.
Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. The time is drawing nigh.
Amen.